Hello and welcome to the space between ideas. I'm Blaine Gates. Today is day number 71 of the 101 day challenge. Therefore, there are exactly 30 days left in the challenge. 30 days. I don't know how many months have exactly 30 days? What's the average number of days per month if you factor in all the different months? Basically, traditionally, I think we think of 30 days as a month. Because even though there's a lot of days with 31 days, I don't really think of 31 days as because that's the most, right? And then 29 is kind of like the least. So 30 just feels like a normal month, which means we got a month. There's exactly 30 days left. A month. So we finished two 30-day periods when we hit day 60, and then we did another 10-day period, and now there are 30 days left. The final month. Now we have had a couple of like spring rains here in Belarus, and then we had a couple of spring snows. So I would say we're not technically into spring yet. There's still snow on the ground. It's kind of muddy. Sometimes it rains, sometimes it snows. The Minsk Sea, they call it the Minsk Sea. It's actually a reservoir. There's still like a good, 8 inches of ice on it. And I went ice fishing. What am I talking about? All right, so let's get back to the the task at hand. All right, so here we go. All right, so we finished. All right, so we finished the state purposes checklist. Congratulations, you got the badge for state purposes. Now we need to leave that third checklist, and go back into the second. All right. So we're in the second checklist. So we're in the process of building scenarios. We're back to this process of building scenarios. Remember? Now, we took a little break from the building scenarios to look at this idea of like, is it possible for us to to identify, to characterize an entity, an individual, a team, a product, a service, or whatever? Can we characterize the level of effort? I mean, you could also characterize like how much effort do I need to put into the process of doing business with this person, not just characterizing their general attitude toward business, but like how much energy, how much effort do I have to put in to being in this relationship? And every relationship takes effort. So I think we exhausted the. But now you can go in and you can make your own, we talked about state purposes. We went through all those purposes that can motivate, but you have to dig deeper to analyze, like, what are the purposes that motivate people specifically? What are they working towards? What does it mean? What does their product do? What motivates them to do that product? What does that product do within the market of motivations and purposes? But that is water under the bridge. And now the thing is, like, all right, so if you're working with people who are becoming, moving from laid back to diligent, we're talking about motivation, right? How can we motivate these people? How can we get them to do more work? How can we assign more time to this task? And how can we add more focus during those periods of time? And then what the thing is, like, if you want to move from we have the levels of success here at the bottom, right? We're talking about state drive. We're talking about levels of success. So we have a trailing position, which means you're not in the front of the pack. You are not the leader. You are not leading, and you are not generally being successful in the activities and the tasks that you're doing. And the thing is that you want to take a leading position, right? And you also need to be able to spot, like, who are the leaders? Why are they leading? All right, so how do you move from this, like, striving? Once you get up to diligent, then it's time to start thinking about how are you going to get from striving to, what's the C? Competing. All right, so the next box is competing. Now, competing means to generally have a diligent level of effort and generally being successful as you do that work, having a leading position and a diligent level of effort. These are the competitors, right? So if you go to a competition, then you have people who are very diligent and who are generally leading. Like if you talk about the playoffs, and then you go to the final competition, the Stanley Cup game, the Grey Cup, the World Cup, whatever cup you want, these are competitors. These are competitors who are diligently competing for the prize. And if they're companies, they're diligently working for market share. All right, now look here. All right, so now this is complicated, right? All right. Now, what are all these dots? Okay, so remember I was telling you about the badges, right? So we got the Endeavor Elements badge. Endeavor Elements means shaping potential, forming agendas, and creating effects. 1, 2, 3. Endeavor Element badge. That's badge number 1. Then we have state purposes. All right, so remember state means to describe, to discuss, to talk about. We got the state purposes badge. Amazing. All right, so we got 1 and 2. State purposes means to involve resources, to excite motivations, to guide interactions, to make assumptions, to build scenarios, choose plans, actions. I didn't look it up. Why did I look it up? Perform actions, recognize outcomes, and foster reuses. All right, and now what's going on over on this other side? All right, so what's going on, right? So why did I put all of the badges here at one time? It's because, there we go. It's because when we're talking about moving from recollecting to striving, we're talking about state purposes. All right, so we're talking about factors that motivate. There's badge number 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we got 8. We got 8 badges right now. Fantastic. Badge number 9 is going to be state drive, and then badge number 10 is down here. All right, so when we're talking about factors that motivate, all right, so where are we here, right? So we got involve resources, which maybe you didn't know, now you know. State resources, all right? So that's why there isn't a line here. And then excite motivations, there should be a line that went through up to there. All right, so you can see how these different elements of the state progress checklist are actually connected to other checklists. All right, so when we're talking about moving from recollecting to striving, we're generally talking about motivating. How do you guide and motivate? Now, but when we're talking about moving from striving to competing, when we're talking about this type of movement, from trailing to leading, all right, then we're talking about a lot of other things. All right, so then we're talking about, all right, your strategies, your thought processes. All right, so there's only one theme of the state progress checklist, which is related to motivation. But what about guiding interactions, okay? So guiding interactions, we're talking about state synergies. We're talking about state teamwork. If you want to start competing more, if you want to start leading more, then you need to start managing your teamwork. All right, so remember, this is the state teamwork checklist. Now, the state teamwork checklist, as you can see, it's talking about guiding interactions, but it's also talking about performing actions and recognizing outcomes and fostering reuses. So it's about creating effects, but it's also about shaping potential. And the way that you connect your shaping potential to your effects is through forming your agendas. All right, so if you have really great plans, that means what? It means that you've planned out your teamwork. You're able to spot the opportunity for cooperation. What about this? What's state inventiveness? All right, so as you are making assumptions, then you need to start going through and figuring out your inventiveness, the principles of inventiveness, and start innovating. You also need to start making assumptions by talking about state assumptions. Going through is what kind of data do we have? What type of information do we need? Spotting needs for information. All right, so we also need to begin to build some scenarios. All right, so we got state styles. Maybe we're going to look at some work styles. Maybe we're going to look at inventiveness once again. All right, we're also going to what? Choose plans. So now we're back to state impact. eventually you're going to choose that plan. And those plans, in order to become competitive, you have to choose the best plan. So all these other checklists are talking about a variety of different topics so that you can come up with a really great plan. And then as you implement that plan, you are competing. All right, so we got 8 badges, and there are 3 more to go. So this is the state impact badge, this is the state drive, and this is state resources. 3 badges, 30 days. Uh-oh. Yeah, I think we're going to have a problem here. What happens if I run out of themes? All right. So, any questions? We're talking about the state drive checklist. Now, we're talking about state drive in the context of what? Building scenarios. So we're still talking about state impact, and we're still building scenarios. So within your Excel spreadsheet, as you've been able to identify teams and individuals, you put down their names, outcomes, reuses, and the actions which they and you will need to do to support each other, your entity personas, and the work that everybody is doing. As you begin to outline all of those details of every single entity, every single business, every single company, every single government organization, every type of connection that's involved in your business process. You can also identify what? Their level, characterize their attitude towards being able to do work. And then you can also characterize if you can influence their attitudes. How influenceable are they? Both, can they become more motivated and can they become more successful? So we have one more box to talk about tomorrow, and it's a very interesting box. It's a very interesting discussion. But after we finish that discussion, we're going to be finished the state drive checklist, which means we've completed the concept of building scenarios through the state drive and the state teamwork checklists. And we will then return to the state impact checklist. We will complete the state impact checklist so that we're able to choose, we're able to evaluate courses of action. And as we make better decisions, as we use the checklists, the Create Crucial Insight checklists, we will be able to think well. And as we think well, we will be able to choose the plans which will drive us to be able to do great. Thank you for joining in today's episode of Space Between Ideas. I'm Blank X.